Hey there, everyone. Welcome to episode 51 of the Halfway Through the Heat Wrestling Podcast. We are returning after our very successful extra live episode last time. And yeah, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We're going to be talking, of course, about the new Raw and the new SmackDown, which is happening as we record. We talk a bunch about Battleground and the first post split Raw. We got a bunch of news, some stuff about people who might have signed to NXT, and a little bit about Brock Lesnar, and some more crazy fans not related to the Shield. And what else? We've got the Cruiserweight Classic to talk about. We've got too much stuff to talk about, Tom. But we got some stuff to talk about. But of course, we got to start with something positive about Raw. So, Tom, what was your positive thing about Raw?
You know, this was really hard to narrow down because this Raw was, I think the quality of Raw since WrestleMania has been generally pretty good, but this one was off the charts.
It was hot fire.
It was hot fire. It was money falling from the sky. Raw was so good. I'm gonna say my positive thing about Raw was Sasha Banks beating Charlotte for the women's championship. One, it was actually a good wrestling match. Two, I like the occasional title change on TV as opposed to a pay-per-view. I know purists and traditionalists hate it, but it's exciting. It adds to like the sense of unpredictability, like anything could happen. And even though everyone thought it was going to happen at SummerSlam, I think that added to the fact that it was a surprise, and I liked it. It was a good moment and a good match.
That's a good choice. Um, I'm gonna pick the glorious return of the Shining Stars. No, not just kidding.
The one down part of
I'm not
Raw.
gonna pick that. I'm gonna pick something that wasn't a match. I'm gonna say that the commentary with Corey Graves was really good.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I was really like you had Michael Cole. I don't. It was like I was Vince. Like, did they lock him in a like closet or something? Because like when Finn Balor was coming out for the first four-way match, you had Michael Cole like talking about the IWGP titles he had won and the best of the Super Juniors tournament. Like, when did they actually let the commentary team like give relevant information? It was such a welcome change from the past.
Yeah, it's really weird. This Vince must have hit his head or some shit because there's like a marked difference after he must have got hurt at WrestleMania or something. Like someone hit him in the head with a ladder or some shit, and then he's got like like one of those 80s movies where like someone gets hit in the head and they have like a bizarre like personality change.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So
Yeah.
like he was previously like gruff Vince McMahon who wanted to see dance instructors wrestle, but now he's like crazy Vince McMahon who wants to hear about IWGP titles and shit. It's like it's like a weird turnaround. Maybe it's like the Nutty Professor, where
Yeah, or like yeah, he I don't know,
or
he was bit by a radioactive internet wrestling fan, and now when the moon is full, he has the proportionate strength of an internet wrestling fan and also the interests.
that could be it. Yeah, I mean, if he had the proportionate strength of an internet wrestling fan, he'd actually be weaker. But
He's much weaker. Yeah, he'd be much weaker. Um, but I just from start to finish, I was really really impressed with Raw.
glad you enjoyed the Shining Stars as well.
The Shining Stars were great. I know that you had been agitating for this for a long time. I was thinking of you when I was watching it. The return of squash matches.
Yes, I was happy to see that because squash matches are something you need. You need that because like otherwise it's just like guys fighting all the time and always like going back and forth 1-to-1. Like you just want people to come out and get destroyed. You want random dude from Philadelphia to get destroyed every once in a while. It works.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was done really well last night too because they want to establish Nia Jax and Braun Strowman as these monsters, and that's what they did. I think they could have picked someone who was maybe a little more convincing as an opponent for Braun Strowman as opposed to this guy who looks like he's an accountant and they just kind of like pulled out of the crowd. But
Are
you know,
you bad mouthing wrestling superstar James Ellsworth?
I would never badmouth James Ellsworth. Yes, I guess I am. But and it helps these people too, like because they get to be on national television, albeit for 90 seconds getting beaten up, but it helps them get bookings and whatever else. So it's a win-win.
What
I was happy to see the return of squash
you know what?
matches
What
for
they
sure.
really need to do is like get someone who is always the squash match guy. Like they used to have Barry Horowitz, and he was on all the time, and
Yep,
he'd always lose, or the Brooklyn Brawler.
the Brooklyn Brawler.
And you get people like that, and you just have them out all the time, and they're going to come out and lose, and then every once in a while you can throw them a win, and it'll be like a huge, you can do the Mikey Whipwreck story over and over again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I think they should have somebody like that. But also, I think it's good to have like local talent just show up, get squashed, and then move on. So at least then you can, the next time you get booked on a local show, they can put on the poster, as seen on SmackDown or Raw or whatever,
I,
and then people will be like, oh, didn't you get squashed by Kane? And like, yeah, whatever.
you know what? Like, I feel like, as much as I hate to say it because I really like him, that Bo Dallas should be that guy. But like, he would just come out and always get squashed, but he would just continue to be believing that he won.
That wouldn't be
he would
bad.
just keep he would keep doing interviews where he would talk about his last victory, his great victory over whoever. Everyone would keep pointing out that he lost, but he would like come up with some excuse as to why he actually won. It would be great. I mean, he would lose all the time, and I don't. I mean, I want Bo Dallas to be over, but like, it fits in the character already. So like,
It does. I would enjoy that actually. Yeah. I mean, it worked when he was doing like the streak. Like he won all these matches on flukes and like DQs and stuff and countouts, and it could work.
yeah. Well, um, like I mentioned, the Mikey Whipwreck thing. Remember in ECW when Mikey Whipwreck like had his ridiculous winning streak where he never got any offense, but he still like accidentally won every time. Where like like people would knock themselves out and he'd fall on top of them, or or like someone else would come in and knock the person out and just put him on top.
Yeah, that was good. And like it's kind of an evergreen. They're doing the same thing in Shine with Luscious Latasha. Like the crowd gets behind the underdog and they keep having like these fluke victories and stuff. It's enjoyable.
Yeah, so they could do that. If there's a bunch of opportunities you have when you have squash matches, and you have people who you expect to lose every time. I mean, because
That's true.
currently, like you kind of expect Bo Dallas to lose every time anyway, because of the way they've been booking him. But it's you know, they could at least do something fun out of it. But
By the way, watching SmackDown Live, Becky Lynch just won. I feel like maybe that's the first freaking match she's won on TV, maybe ever.
that's they've got all of the SmackDown women out right now.
Here comes Alexa Bliss. I guess that's Becky's new opponent, and they're going to exile Natty back to Total Divas. I like Alexa Bliss a lot, and I like Becky Lynch a lot, so I'm excited they're feuding. Um, the other thing I want to talk about on Raw was Finn Balor made his Raw debut, and what a debut it was.
That is very true. A very shocking debut for Finn Balor.
Um, he won 2 matches, and one of them was against Roman Reigns. Everybody expected Roman Reigns to win because the winner of the match would get a shot at Seth Rollins, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's obviously going to be Roman." And then, shockingly, Finn Balor, who is a man of average height or slightly above average height, wins. And the internet wrestling people went nuts. I loved it. I thought it was a great finish. Even though I like Roman Reigns,
You got a T-shirt.
I have a T-shirt. I'm in the Roman Empire. But again, I like the theme of surprises. Just like with Sasha Banks winning on free TV, it was exciting to see Finn Balor. And Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins could be quite a good match.
Okay, wait. Eva Marie is coming out on SmackDown right now. Is the crowd booing? I
Well, where I am, it's Carmella right now.
Oh, damn.
I think I'm
You're a
behind
little
you.
behind me. Okay, but she's gonna come out soon. So let me know
Yeah, well,
how loud the booing is. I have the sound off so I can actually do the podcast, but like um
I'll unmute it.
I assume it's gonna be some crazy booing. But anyway, back to the Raw Raw talk.
Holy cow! It's super loud. Yeah,
Great. Expected.
the booing. Yeah, she's getting booed. I like Eva Marie. Uh, so anyway, what do you think about Finn Balor?
I'm glad that they let him win. Glad that he came out and they already have established him as a top guy.
I agree, and I think it made sense the way you want to start off. Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of booing. I'm sorry. Uh, so because people hate Roman so much, it made a lot of sense to have Finn win because people in the Raw crowd don't necessarily know who Finn Balor is, and so it's just this guy who comes out and beats the person they hate, and they're like, yeah, all right. And it's a decision that made so much obvious sense. I was kind of convinced they wouldn't do it because they don't. Every once in a while they make sense, but most of the time it's just crazy Vince.
Like we
But
said
they did the right
earlier,
thing.
he must be like one of those things where he got an ancient Aztec artifact and it swapped his personality with somebody else. So somebody else like has Vince McMahon's brain. Somebody else
That's
using his
right.
body right now.
There's like an indie wrestler like Super Dragon has Vince's brain, so like PWG is gonna be booked horribly from now on. Like Cody Rhodes is gonna destroy everyone at Bola. I like this. I would watch this movie. But so not everyone liked it though. Our old friend Vince Russo
Oh, Vince Russo.
was so upset that Finn Balor, first of all, won the four-way match he was in, and then that he beat Roman Reigns. At like Vince Russo just flipped out about it and said that after watching that episode of Raw, the wrestling business is dead. It's over.
It's over.
And then he tweeted out a picture of the Lucky Charms leprechaun. You know the cereal Lucky Charms. So he tweeted out a picture of the Lucky Charms leprechaun and was like, Finn Balor's got a new sponsorship deal. And
Why does Vince Russo not like Finn Balor?
because he thinks he's a boring wrestler. He doesn't like wrestlers. He likes entertainers.
He comes out with like a minute-long entrance dressed as a demon. How much more entertaining could you get?
Yeah, well, like recall that Vince Russo put the belt on David Arquette. He doesn't like wrestling. That's his, and he kind of admits that. Like he's not like he's like I've never watched Ring of Honor. It's a wrestling show. But then a bunch of people were giving him shit because they're like, oh, that's real funny, make fun of the Irish guy for being a leprechaun. He's like, bro, I didn't know he was Irish. And they're like, he literally in his promo said, I'm Irish.
How could you wait? If you didn't know he was Irish, why would you make the Lucky Charms joke?
Well, Russo was saying it's just because he got lucky
Um.
beating Roman.
Oh.
Yeah.
Lame.
And it's funny, people always give Jim Cornette shit for being stuck in the past, but Russo is really it's the same. It's weirdly the same thing, except Russo is stuck in like a 3-month period in 1997, like that. I mean, like whereas at least Cornette is sort of like a very nostalgic for the like cable era of wrestling. Like Russo he's nostalgic for like the quarter where he was successfully ripping off Paul Heyman, and like it's so funny to see the workings of the guy who thinks like that's all the wrestling business needs to do to get back to the 10 million viewers they would have weekly in the late 90s is just to like have more bra and panties matches and more like stupid angles and more vignettes and fewer wrestling matches and fewer actual like Vince Russo is convinced to this day that no one who watches wrestling actually wants to see wrestling. They want to see something else with hints of wrestling.
Yeah, he's wrong.
He's wrong. He's mistaken. But when I saw him like tweeting about how angry he was and how stupid it was, I was like, man, that's a sign they're really doing something right. Right? Because like Vince Russo had one time in his whole career where he was on top. And that was when he was stealing Paul Heyman's ideas, or at least ripping off Paul Heyman. And he also had Vince McMahon as his like ultimate filter. But when Vince Russo was running WCW, it was not successful, was not popular. And when he was running TNA and then involved in TNA and lurking around the fringes of TNA, whatever he was doing in TNA. Also not popular, also not successful. So like when that guy says, "Oh, this is crap," you got to think like, "All right, we're doing something right."
Yeah, you think like it must be awesome, and it was awesome.
It was. I like to be surprised. One of the things that I've had against WWE shows in the past is that they're predictable and they're kind of dull. And Raw was not predictable. It was a lot of fun, and it's going to be hard to maintain this level of quality. But if they at least are committed to the sort of principles they showed on Monday night, I'm very excited.
Yeah, I hope it continues in the direction they've actually changed a bit up, and it's good.
I'm cautiously optimistic. Well, let's turn to some news. We have some news. Um, we've got well, we should have talked about this last time, but we were live. By the way, thanks everyone who dropped by and hung out with us when we were live. It was fun for our big 50th show uh, where we saw the draft. One story we should have mentioned, and we just touch on it briefly because it's sort of the cat. I mean, everyone knows about this now. A bunch of ex WWE personalities, mostly wrestlers, but also some non-wrestlers, are suing with concussion claims. WWE is obviously saying the lawsuit is without merit, and that this is just a serial litigator who's sued the company twice before unsuccessfully. There have been attempts to sue the WWE over concussion stuff similar to the NFL in the past that have not been successful. I don't think there's any reason to think this lawsuit is different. This has a lot more names attached to it. It's like 50 wrestlers, including probably some of your favorites, or at least some people you like. And but I do think if nothing else comes of it, I do think hopefully this lawsuit will. One of the key claims in the lawsuit is that the WWE giving its wrestlers the status of independent contractors is illegal, and if the court doesn't agree, maybe the scrutiny on that will prompt WWE to change it, because that is the most bullshit thing about the company. The idea that the wrestlers are not employees, that they're independent contractors, and so they don't have health insurance, for example, and they have to pay taxes in every state where they work, meaning basically all 50 states. There's all kinds of shit, and it's just the way they get around certain laws and things like that, and it's horrible.
They have to pay taxes in every state they work.
Yeah, because they're an independent contractor. Every show is a different like job.
Wow, doing taxes must be ridiculous.
It must be a nightmare. Unless they've incorporated themselves as like an LLC or something, which some of them have. They have to do that they have to file for every state.
Jeez, wow.
And then but no health insurance. That to me is the biggest problem. Like if you get injured, WWE will pay, I think, for your hospitalization, but like just routine medical stuff, they don't. You have to buy your own insurance, which is absurd. So if nothing else comes of this, hopefully some scrutiny on that. I mean I think it's very hard to argue that the same concussion cover up existed in the WWE that existed in the NFL, and also that it's much harder to, I think, hold the WWE solely responsible, because if you look at this roster of guys, just like virtually all wrestlers, they've worked all over the place. A lot of these guys were in WCW or NWA or the Independents or whatever, ECW. Like, it's very hard to say WWE is solely culpable for any injuries they had. Now, that's not saying that wrestlers don't deserve to be taken better care of. They absolutely do. But I don't think the lawsuit has much chance of success. But hopefully it will force WWE to change some of their horrible policies in regards to their wrestlers.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it would be hard to, especially after all this time, like for like some of the people who are in are listed are like Road Warrior Animal. Like he wrestled in all types of places beforehand, and like before he was in the WWE, he was in like this crazy matches in the South, including like scaffolding matches. Like what?
Yeah, and they started in NWA, and they were, and some of those guys are still wrestling.
Yeah, like if you're also on that list is Jimmy Snuka, who
right.
I mean, he's been wrestling in indies since forever, and he was wrestling in like Mid South and stuff before he was in the WWE. I mean, plus he's been wrestling since like the 70s. it's, I mean, obviously not wrestling anymore, but like, he was wrestling in indies and stuff forever. Like, how do you maintain that like you were injured on WWE's ring and not somebody else's ring, or
Right.
like how can you determine that? So I think like it would be really hard to pin the blame on WWE, but also like have worked in like a million other places.
Yeah, there's nothing even comparable in the NFL, obviously, except they could sue, I guess, colleges, which is probably the next frontier of those concussion lawsuits, which would be very interesting. But so I mean, I don't think the lawsuit has much of a chance of success. But if it spurs the WWE to improve their business practices, I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, makes sense. I hope it does actually.
The next piece of news, this is a little happier, but still there's some controversy. The Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar, he is coming back early. Uh, After Brock Lesnar tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs in UFC, WWE announced a 30-day suspension. Um, they have apparently decided to that they've eliminated that continuity. They've retconned. He's no longer suspended for 30 days. He's coming back well before then.
I wonder, like I remember we've been speculating about this before, but like like performance enhancing drugs are like probably some kind of steroids or whatever, but like we were speculating that I wonder if it was like something he tested positive for something that is not looked down upon by the WWE's wellness check.
Yes.
So like like it's some kind of like human growth hormone or something, and then like he's tested positive for that in UFC and it's bad, but like in WWE it's not against the wellness policy.
Right.
So like like they announced like he's suspended, then he was like, no, it's just for this. You guys always know that I do this, and they were like, oh, okay, not suspended.
Yeah, it would not surprise me if UFC has more stringent rules about what you can and can't do than WWE does. Also, I mean the consensus, and again, we haven't gotten this on the record, but a lot of people are saying, including people who have been right in the past, that what Roman Reigns was suspended for was Adderall, wasn't anything performance enhancing. I mean, I guess Adderall is technically performance enhancing, but it makes you concentrate. It's like a drug that college students at the university where I work take before finals. So the idea that he's like injecting anabolic steroids or something does not seem to be borne out, at least with the best we have from the rumor mill. But Brock Lesnar is coming back Monday night. He's going to be on Raw. They're putting him in a program with Randy Orton, who's back from injury. And I don't know, I don't know why. I don't. This is such a weird decision because there's no. It's like they have nothing to do with. I mean, they have no idea what to do with Brock or with Randy Orton. So they're like, hey, these are two leftover pieces. Why don't we just put them together?
That's kind of what it feels like, because there's not like there's a huge history between Randy Orton and Brock Lesnar.
Nope. And it doesn't even seem like a match that a lot of people have been sort of like, like I could see Kevin Owens and Brock Lesnar. Like people would be, oh, that's pretty cool. But Randy Orton and Brock Lesnar, they've been in the company for a long time together, and like there hasn't been, like you said, a feud or anything, and there hasn't been like dream match speculation. It just seems sort of like, hey, these are two of our bigger names. They're not doing anything right now, so we might as well have them fight.
That's kind of what it is.
So it's very indie fed esque. It's just like, hey, there's two really good wrestlers. They're gonna fight.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why?
I don't know what it's gonna be, but Randy Orton, he's everywhere.
He also took a shot at Brock Lesnar's drug test when he came out and was interviewed on Battleground.
And the
He took
and
a
the
little,
Chris Jericho thing.
yeah, in the Chris Jericho segment, he made a little wisecrack, which is funny because Randy himself has been suspended for failing the wellness
Yeah,
test.
he's currently on SmackDown right now. I don't know what he's saying, but he's on the Miz's show. Looks contentious.
Probably
He's probably gonna RKO somebody out of nowhere.
someone is going to get RKO'd out of nowhere. I predict it. Maybe the Miz, probably not Maurice. They don't do that anymore.
Yeah, it's
Um,
kind of hard to establish yourself as the face if you're gonna be RKOing women out
beatable.
of nowhere.
Um, What else do we have coming up in news? Well, so a lot of rumored NXT signings. Some of them are not rumors. Some of them are, as far as we know, facts.
Yay, facts.
Let's run down the ones that we know for sure and the ones we've heard. So for sure, absolutely, we know Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, who of course have been appearing on NXT for like a year, just about.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't have a contract. That's
I know,
because they've been on TV.
and they've won matches, and they've been like they're a tag team, and they're in the cruiserweight classic together. But now they have both signed exclusive deals. They're both going to be done with the Indies at the end of September. Ciampa's last match is in London, actually, or not London, somewhere in England, maybe London. It's at Rev Pro, and Gargano's last match, appropriately, is in Cleveland, his hometown, at AIW, both at the end of September, and then they go to NXT for good. Um, so we know those two; those aren't big surprises at all. The We also know that Kota Ibushi, which was a huge surprise, and a year ago, if you had told me that, I would have been like, nope. But this has been such a kooky year. Anything can happen. Kota Ibushi has signed with NXT. Rumored to start as early as October, which would be pretty cool. He's a huge, huge talent. He's already ready to like be on Raw or SmackDown or whatever. But I guess it makes sense, just like Nakamura, you start off at NXT, build up some buzz, and then go to the main event. Gran Metalik / Mascara Dorado, a very good choice.
This a lot of the recent WWE signings is like, let's just raid New Japan.
Yeah, right. Seriously. Lince Dorado. We know this because he actually announced this at an indie show. Um, so that's pretty great. Cedric Alexander. So those are. Oh, sorry. So Ciampa, Gargano, Kota Ibushi, Gran Metalik, and Lince Dorado are the ones that we're reasonably certain of. These are the ones that are rumored to have either signed or have deals put in front of them. Cedric Alexander, Akira Tozawa, Noam Dar, Jack Gallagher, and Zack Sabre Jr. was offered a deal but has contractual obligations that keep him tied up until 2017.
Oh,
So if those are all true, I mean, even the ones we know are true are pretty amazing when you think about it. And again, it goes to Vince has, he has the Aztec medallion and he's traded places with someone. And this is like a different Vince who's like, yeah, these guys are great. Let's get them all in.
it's so weird. Like, besides right now, could you imagine a situation ever where like you would be like Akira Tozawa definitely going to WWE?
Oh my God. Like, not in a million years. He's great. Don't get me wrong. But like watching him on like PWG do all this insane stuff, you would never think like, oh yeah, that guy's going to WWE. You just not even a year ago, none of these would have made sense. Because these are all guys, just about all these guys, they're like normal size. I mean, they're not. I mean, they're in incredible shape and are much more muscular than most people, but they're not like these huge, huge, super tall, amazing bodybuilder types like Hulk Hogan or the Ultimate Warrior or Lex Luger or even The Rock. Like these are cruiserweights. These are guys who, great shape, obviously, but they've built their careers on just being really good wrestlers, as opposed to being like bodybuilders. And Vince is always like bodybuilders and giants. I mean, the Big Show still has a job, but will always have a job as long as Vince is in charge. And this is a completely different direction for the company. And I, for one, am delighted because they're really like this is the cream of the crop. They are getting the most talented wrestlers in the world, and they're bringing them all under one banner, which is what Vince did in the 80s to take over, right? He raided the territories. He went and he got the best wrestlers in North America. Well, all right, the US and Canada. And brought them all and like it's established a roster that nobody could compete with. It's a smart move. I mean, especially it's a smart move if you want to get people into wrestling who are not interested in like big muscular bodybuilder types, who want to be impressed with like athletic feats and storytelling and seeing stuff that they haven't seen before. So if these are all signings, if like NXT shows are going to be Kota Ibushi and Lince Dorado and Cedric Alexander and Akira Tozawa, and like it's gonna be amazing. This is like the indie dream league, but with a real budget behind it.
Yeah, I mean, it really is, and like thinking of just the matches that could happen with with the possibility of if just these people, but like also with the possibility of them coming to main roster stuff. Like, could you imagine Kota Ibushi on WWE main roster?
Oh man,
Think of all the good matches he could have.
Kota Ibushi and John Cena. Kota Ibushi, I mean, like in SmackDown with like Cena and Dean Ambrose and AJ Styles, and I mean, come on, I would love it. I'd be so excited. I I this is great news. I'm very excited, and I would have scoffed at this completely. Any rumors I hear about WWE signing? Oh, and Tommy End. I almost forgot Tommy End. He's coming to NXT. Like, I'm going to see him in Enfield, Connecticut in August, and he's going to be in NXT. He's amazing. I never would have imagined this stuff was possible even a year ago, but so much crazy stuff has happened. Shinsuke Nakamura, AJ Styles, Gallows and Anderson. I mean, anything is possible. It's an awesome time to be a wrestling fan because there's always surprising stuff happening. Speaking of surprising stuff happening, it's not so awesome. Normally, when we talk about crazy fans, we talk about the Shield.
Because
We talk about
usually those people are, jumping barriers to pat the Shield on the back or whatever, the Shield dudes.
right, or try to stab them, or hitting them with briefcases, or in other ways, show normal ways you show your love for someone.
Yeah, normally, you want to wake up standing over them.
That's right. Yeah. They just want to the Shield fans, I mean, they don't want to hurt the Shield. They just want the Shield to live in giant jars in their basements. What's wrong with
Yeah,
that?
I mean, giant mason jars with the Shield members. That's all they want.
That's that nothing could be more normal. You're going to be the jar Shield. We're going to reunite the Shield in my basement and you'll never leave. Um but this time we have a crazy fan story that does not involve the Shield. It doesn't even involve WWE. This is a sign of how big the Final Deletion storyline was for TNA. Matt Hardy lives in beautiful Cameron, North Carolina, a town I've been to. Has a big property there. I once talked to him on the phone. I'm going to point that out. I'm going to keep dropping that story forever.
It's under
Uh,
unfortunate circumstances, though.
it is under unfortunate circumstances. Um, so like the Final Deletion, Matt Hardy's property. Someone shows up. A fan just like shows up at this house in Cameron, North Carolina. And if you live in North Carolina, or if you're a wrestling fan, you know where they live. It's not hard. Also, like, there aren't many mansions in Cameron, North Carolina. Let's put it that way. So this fan just like shows up and he like knocks on the door, and Rebby Sky, Matt's wife, opens the door, and there's this fan who's like, I want to talk to Matt or Jeff. Because in the Final Deletion storyline, Matt has enslaved Jeff and kept him in his property, and this fan's like, oh, that's probably where Jeff is. And Rebby Sky's like, get the fuck out of here. I would not mess with Rebby Sky, by the way. She's Puerto Rican. Those people don't mess around. So the fan was like, I guess he didn't want any piece of Senor Benjamin or something. He didn't want the battlefield prepared for massacre, so he left. Rebby Sky called the cops. Here's the thing. Just as we've cautioned with the Shield, don't go to wrestlers' houses.
Yeah, because first of all, that's creepy. But second of all, the wrestlers could probably destroy you, and they
Yes.
might.
And they might. And no one's going to prosecute them because you're trespassing. And you know, if someone breaks your arm when you're trespassing their property, guess what? That person who breaks your arm is not getting in any trouble with the law. This once happened. I remember in an interview with CM Punk talking about going out to like take out his trash, and there's like this line of people waiting on the curb to talk to him in CM Punk shirts. That must be like terrifying.
Just like,
Can you imagine like you go outside in the morning and there's like 6 people with T-shirts that have your picture on them? You'd be like, oh fuck,
that's pretty normal.
this is how it
It's kind
ends.
of how it happens every day for me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's right. Well, that's true. But yeah, absolutely. Uh, but yeah, well, I mean, and the funny thing too is like Rebby Sky's not like her. She just chews the fan out. Like she does, is not scared. She's not. But seriously, don't go to Matt Hardy's house unless he invites you, or unless he plays his violin and you hear the music and are drawn to his house.
Yeah, unless you're summoned by a violin to be there, don't be there.
If you are summoned by a violin to take part in a massacre on the battlefield, then go. By all means, go. But otherwise, don't just show up at his house and ask for Jeff because you think Jeff is enslaved in the basement. Look, I don't want to cast aspersions on TNA fans. I'm just saying that whenever you see people online who are too wrapped up in it and who make you think maybe they believe this is real, it's usually TNA fans.
Man.
There's like one guy who when Mia Yim, aka Jade in TNA, had the belt, she was a heel at first, and she was always like cheating as heels do. I remember just on her Twitter, like this guy was nuts. Every time she'd win a match, he would like this tweet storm at her, who's like, "You can't win without cheating. It's disgusting. You don't want to." And like he would just go on and on and on. And I would look at his Twitter timeline, and it was all like, pictures of battleships. And like American flag memes, and he's just a fucking lunatic. And yeah, so the TNA people they're pretty hardcore about it. Like I posted it on Closet of Anxiety, reblogged it from Tape Machines on Matt Hardy's Instagram. He posted something about file deletion or something, and like there's this fan who's like, "Stop this bullshit!" Just like they can't handle it. The TNA fans, some of them are great people. I think that's all we have for news.
That's all we have, but we should go over Battleground because
yeah.
there was some mediocrity, I guess, going on at Battleground. I don't know.
You know what? I enjoyed Battleground.
It was all right, but like it wasn't. There was nothing like super special about it.
Let me see. Maybe I disagree. I don't know.
Oh wait, there was something very special about it. I'll go out on a limb and say I was glad to see the Usos get beat by Breezango in the pre-show.
Huh. Also, like, even though Breezango were the heels, the crowd popped when they beat the Usos. The crowd was not into the Usos at all.
Yeah, see, the crowd has turned. No more leg slapping for them.
I actually liked. I loved the Sami Zayn Kevin Owens match.
There weren't any really bad matches. I mean, I can't remember anything that I thought was horrible. Where I was just like,
oh, the Miz versus Darren Young was horrible.
Well, but that had the return of Crazy Bob Backlund, so like I can't even really be terribly down on that.
To me, everything up to the Natalya Becky Lynch match was absolutely great. The first 5 matches, Breezango and Usos, whatever, it was pre-show. But it was fine. The right result. Breezango won. Sasha Banks, Bayley was her quote unquote surprise partner, even though I think you and I said last week this was definitely happening.
That was it was surprise in quotes because like basically everybody was saying it's definitely Bayley.
Yeah, but that was the right choice.
Yeah. I mean that's true.
And it was a good result, Charlotte, and like give Charlotte credit. Charlotte tapped out 2 nights in a row. I mean, like that's not bad. And then I thought the Wyatt family New Day thing was fun. I don't 100% understand the finish with the Wyatts winning, but I was kind of happy to see them finally get a win.
Yeah, that's the thing where like I feel like I don't know why it ended that way, but I guess the Wyatt family won for once. That's something.
Yeah, I mean, I was happy to see that, and I kind of liked how. I thought the storyline between them was sort of dumb, especially the compound fight. There was no final deletion. But I liked the sense that like Xavier Woods was kind of like just so terrified of Bray Wyatt, and he was like susceptible to his like brainwashing. And in this match, we saw him finally like snap out of it. And as Tape Machine said, like when Xavier Woods like was fired up, he was fired up in the way you'd expect a dork to be fired up. Like just kind of flailing at Bray Wyatt and like trying these crazy aerial moves and not quite hitting them. Like that's exactly how you imagine like in a comic book, like the nerd finally asserts himself. So I liked that. I thought that was all good storytelling. The Rusev Zack Ryder thing wasn't like a classic or anything, but it was fine. It was the right result. Rusev beat up Zack Ryder, and then for me the best part was the end. Mojo Rawley comes running out. By the way, the fact that like online internet wrestling nerds are now talking about how actually Mojo Rawley is good. You people are pathetic.
Yeah, Jesus, wow.
You're gonna praise Mojo Rawley, but you're still gonna shit on John Cena and Roman Reigns. Give me a break. Mojo Rawley, oh my, Mojo Rawley is like one of those guys they would have brought on in WCW in the early '90s before the NWO for like a one night select. Like we're having a pay per view in Wisconsin, so we have like a guy who was cut by the Packers last year. Like he's the worst. He's the drizzling shits. I cannot believe there are people who are promoting a Mojo Rawley as good angle. Anyway, he runs out at the end of the Rusev Zack Ryder match, and he runs into the ring and he's like to intimidate Rusev. The best part about it is like Rusev is just staring at this guy like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like it's exactly what Rusev should have done in that moment. Like he didn't run out, he didn't like roll out of the ring and like hide behind Lana or anything. He just stood there and was like, what are you gonna do? And I hope that is how the feud goes. I hope it's just Rusev absolutely breaking Mojo Rawley in half. Um, and then the Sami Zayn Kevin Owens thing was so great. I mean, it was a fantastic match. They did a ton of stuff that they almost never get to do in WWE. And if you were invested in their story before, it was amazing. But even if you were only invested in their story since they started in NXT, it was great. I mean, it was actually like an emotional match with a real payoff and a real storyline, which is something that not enough wrestling shows or companies or anyone bothers to do, is establish a reason for us to care about the match. And absolutely the right finish. The good guy finally, after getting bullied and always falling short and never quite having enough, the good guy finally wins, and he's conflicted about winning. That thing at the end where like Sami Zayn hesitated before the second kick was great. Just absolutely wonderful storytelling. I loved that match so much. One of my favorite WWE matches of the year. And then the rest of the show kind of,
Yeah, that's like where I felt like there's a lot of the show was kind of eh. There was good parts. The Usos losing handily, mostly. But yeah, the Sami Zayn Kevin Owens match was great, and it was long too. It was like almost 20 minutes.
They gave them a lot of time, which was great.
Um,
Um,
but yeah, everything else I wasn't really super excited for. Even like I mean, the 6-man tag should have been better than it was.
yeah, I agree. I didn't love. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love that match. To me, it felt like a TV match. It just felt like something you'd see on Raw.
Yeah, basically that's what I would think about it too. It didn't feel like anything special, and it really wasn't. I mean, there wasn't any reason for it to continue, I guess. But and then you had the surprising. I was actually a little bit surprised that Dean Ambrose managed to keep the title.
I that was the result that made the most sense. But again, it was one of those things where you're like, well, that one makes the most sense. So what are they actually going to do?
Yeah, like that's the thing where I I do think it makes the most sense, but at the same time I think like they're not gonna do that. It makes too much sense. But they did it, which
And
is also a new change for WWE, I guess. And now the previous formula of just imagining the worst possible choice they could make and then assuming that will happen doesn't work anymore.
no, it doesn't. It doesn't. They're surprising us. Heath Slater, by the way, right now on SmackDown Live, has rushed into the ring, and it looks like he beat up an enhancement talent. He hasn't been drafted. I like Heath Slater. He's criminally underrated. Um, but yeah, no, I agree with you. I thought the triple threat match was nothing special. I hated the Jericho Randy Orton segment. It was way too long. It pushed the pay per view well past 11 o'clock at night, and I just didn't like it at all. Um, but I thought it was half a great pay per view and then half an average pay per view, with only one really terrible match being The Miz and Darren Young, and even that, as you said, at least had Crazy Bob Backlund.
Yeah. So
Always happy to see Crazy Bob
yeah,
Backlund.
it's not like it wasn't horrible. Like I didn't feel it was bad at all, and there were some really good spots, but like I don't know, it just kind of um, it's not like super memorable all together.
No, I agree. I mean, but I will the Sami Zayn Kevin Owens is going to go in my personal library of favorite WWE matches.
It's gonna go in your list of 5-star matches.
On my list of five asterisk matches. Um, but yeah, Battleground, certainly a solid pay per view. even though it was a little downbeat towards the end. But sort of the last of the old era, right? From now on, we're going to see uh, SmackDown pay-per-views, Raw pay-per-views, and they're going to have joint pay-per-views 4 times a year. They've already revived Backlash, and that's going to be a SmackDown pay-per-view.
What are we looking?
So,
Are we seeing the return of Rhino?
well, Rhino's been like floating around in NXT, right?
Yeah, but he's like goring.
Oh, is he come? Is he coming out in
He's on
SmackDown?
SmackDown right now.
This is a very odd. So for fans of Space Time Continuum, Joe's it's Wednesday morning for Joe. It's Tuesday night for me. He's a few minutes ahead on his stream from where I am on the television, and you're listening to this some other point in the future.
There's all types of time stuff going on here.
This would have blown Schrodinger's mind. That's all I'm saying. I probably would not even know what Schrodinger was into. But so anyway, we've talked about Battleground and kind of how it's the last of the old era. Just want to touch brief, and we've mentioned that SmackDown and Raw are going to have separate pay-per-views. What did you think about the draft? We watched it live with our friends here in the world of podcasting. Yeah, there's Rhino. The man is running for office in Michigan.
Yeah, he's also goring people on TV. It's great.
If that doesn't get him some votes, I don't know what will. He would lose a lot of votes if Heath Slater beat him, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Rhino is a freakish man mountain. I'll say it.
He is. I saw him. I've seen him wrestle a couple times in person recently, and he's quite a sight to behold.
I haven't seen him wrestle in person since the '90s, but just looking at him on TV makes him look like a freakishly proportioned man mountain.
He is. When you see him in person, it's even more evident. He's especially like him wearing street clothes. It's very strange. Very nice guy though. I mean, at least nice to fans. So what do you think about the draft?
Well, the actual execution of the draft was kind of poor because, like, they didn't draft everybody.
Right.
They like interspersed it with like go nowhere matches.
Yeah, that was bad. That was rough.
So, like, what they should have, I mean, I didn't mind that they had matches, but they should have actually drafted everybody on the show instead of like doing it later, just like via list online.
Yeah, they did on the network special afterwards. They had some more, and Raw actually drafted more people. I assume it's because it's 3 hours as opposed to 2. But the other interesting thing on the network special, Cesaro, it was a shoot. He pulled out his shoot gun and shot, and said he was bummed out to be on Raw and he wanted to be on SmackDown. And talked about how he's more of a SmackDown guy, blah blah blah. And that apparently was not planned. And people were like, "Uh-oh!" And I even was like, I was writing the next day on Closet of Anxiety. I was like, "Good, this means I'll get to see Cesaro and Beyond Wrestling pretty soon." No, apparently Vince loved it.
Yeah, that's the thing where like there was rumors that like, oh, Cesaro's got heat on him now because he badmouthed the decision to be put on Raw, and then like the next day there was more rumors like, no, Vince McMahon seems to really enjoy when wrestlers stick up for themselves that way, so maybe doesn't have any heat.
So it's like, again, Vince in his new brain, like old brain Vince would have been like, well, good, you're just gonna be like Ryback, we're putting you on waivers. But new brain Vince was like, no, you know what? You're going to be in a 4-way for a chance at the championship on Raw.
Great. I would have. I like the idea that. I wonder. The real question is, who has Vince's brain now?
That's right. In my fantasy, of course, it's Super Dragon and PWG. Like Sid's gonna show up and win Bola. People are going, like, what the fuck? Sid just came out and destroyed Zack Sabre Jr. I wonder who does have Vince's brain. Tim Kaine. No, I don't know who it is.
Human Nillaway for Tim Kaine.
Human Nillaway for Tim Kaine. Slightly hot high school vice principal Tim Kaine. I think looking at the two rosters, I think Raw probably has the stronger of the two rosters.
Yeah, they did kind of push Raw to be a bit more powerful, but now we've got to update our listings here because Rhino is on SmackDown.
That's right. And I think like SmackDown has, I think, more of the wrestlers who I think I really want to see. Like it's got AJ Styles, John Cena, Bray Wyatt, American Alpha, Kalisto, and Alexa Bliss, and Apollo Crews, who, although he's really boring in WWE, he's actually really good and can do a lot of stuff. And like maybe this is the chance for him to break out and do good stuff. But they're also like, man, they're bogged down with some real boring, like Zack Ryder, Mojo Rawley, the freaking Ascension.
Yeah, Ascension. I'm interested to see what they do with the like how they're gonna do the draft result. Like what do you do when you have only like two tag teams on your show? You have like four women, six women now, I guess maybe. Like what do you do with that? Because like there's not, like how many tag teams are on SmackDown?
It's American Alpha, the Usos, the Ascension, Breezango, and the Vaudevillains.
Yeah, that's five tag teams. Like there's only so many matches you can do there. I mean, are they gonna bring in like um, random guy number one and random guy number two for squash matches? Maybe.
That could be, and I would not object to that. Some tag team squash matches.
Remember in the '80s when they would have like just two random dudes tag teamed up, and then Demolition would come out and kill them.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. And they do that in NXT. They'll have like one of their top tag teams. They'll just be like two guys with like green trunks come out and get beat up. That's not terrible. And also there'll be some other like Bray Wyatt and Eric Rowan will form a tag team or can be used as a tag team if need be. You can put some of these people with other guys. But yeah, and the women's division is super weak in SmackDown.
And
Like in terms
there's no
of
title.
people there's no title and there's no tag team title. The only title in SmackDown is the world heavyweight title, or whatever it is. Because now in Raw, of course, there's its own title, the Universal Championship.
That's it sounds like the worst named title ever.
This is like Sam Roberts, the radio broadcaster and podcast guy. Like he's not only is he a wrestling super fan, he's occasionally interviewed on WWE TV, so he's cozy with WWE. Even Sam Roberts last night was tweeting, "The Universal Championship is the dumbest name I've ever heard."
Not if it was for Universal Championship Wrestling.
That's right. That's right. It worked for Bill Watts. It actually didn't work for Bill Watts.
I think,
But the reason Bill Watts chose that is because like he was like, well, what's bigger than the World Wrestling Federation? I know, the universe.
Universal, the Universal Wrestling Federation.
Jesus.
Is that what it was?
Yeah,
it was UWF, right? Yeah.
It was UWF. Yeah, Mid South became UWF like at the end. Yeah. But if they revived the UWF Heavyweight Championship, I would love it. That would instantly become better than the belt Dean Ambrose has, but I don't think they're going to do that. So yeah, there's a new belt. There's two belts. It'll be interesting to see sort of which one has more juice. And all the other champs. Oh no, I'm sorry. Intercontinental. Miz has the Intercontinental belt. He's in SmackDown. So SmackDown has the World title and the Intercontinental title. Raw has the Universal Championship, the Women's Championship, the Tag Team Championships, and the U.S. title.
Yeah, at least one of those is going to have to change. Probably tag teams, I guess, would go to SmackDown.
I would guess because they're front loading. I mean, their women's talent in Raw. But this is one of those things where you think like, well, even though the roster seems big, like who are they gonna like for some of the like now that you've split up like the women and tag teams, they really do have to have squash matches. Because what else are they gonna do?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense otherwise. Like, how are you going to handle that? Like, you can't have, the same five teams wrestle each other forever.
God no. But I'll be curious to see too if they keep with all these guys they're bringing to NXT. I'll be curious to see if they keep NXT 1 hour or go to 2. We've talked about this. It presents some challenges going to 2 because they tape a bunch of episodes all at once, and then that's a lot to make people sit through. But after a certain point, you got to get you have to get. You're spending more money on people like Kota Ibushi than you are on other people you're bringing in NXT. You want to return on that investment. You got to get them in front of an audience. Like they're not going to be wrestling dark matches.
Yeah, I mean,
So
obviously, like the money you're spending on someone like Kota Ibushi or Nakamura or any of the like the bigger names, because like you know, obviously they're probably they're not going to be offered like a low money contract when they're already making way more somewhere else. Like I,
right,
it seems really unlikely that Kota Ibushi is going to drop like the $800,000 a year or whatever he was making to make 70 in NXT as a NXT talent or whatever. It seems really unlikely.
yeah, exactly. And so like you're spending all this money on these guys. You want to get them where they can make money for you, which is on Raw or SmackDown. Um, and it's gonna, it's the same with everybody in NXT. So I I don't know with a huge roster. They already have a big roster, and if as it gets even bigger with like talent they've already spotlighted with the cruiserweight thing, I don't know how they can keep doing it. 1 hour a week,
Maybe they can go to 1.5 hours.
90 minutes. I could see that. I 100% wouldn't mind if they went to 2 hours. I think they can. You can do a tight, well done 2 hour show. Um, but I love the format that they have now, and it's one of those things that you just don't want to see them tinker with it too much in case it sucks.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, I do enjoy how it's set up. I mean, I like NXT as it is, but like there are so many people now that it's kind of like you got to do something.
Yeah, because I honestly like when I tune in and watch, like there are people I want to see, and they're not on every week because there's just not enough time to get everybody in every week. And all right, I I don't want to. I don't have to see people like the same people every week, but if I go a couple weeks without seeing like Asuka or Nakamura or even like the revival, it's like all right, I don't care about the Drifter or No Way Jose. I want to see my favorites.
Those
And
you just listed your favorites though.
and and with more and more like really awesome fun guys coming in, I want to see those guys too. Um, but overall, I think it's too early to say what's going to happen with the draft. It is what it is. The way they did it is the way they did it, and we'll just have to wait and see how it shakes out. Um, Speaking of the Cruiserweight Classic, if you had a chance to watch either of the
I've
episodes,
only watched the first one right now. I haven't seen the latest one.
pretty solid. Both of them have been a lot of fun. I've loved the commentary on both. I think the way they're doing it with Mauro Ranallo and Daniel Bryan, like treating it like a straightforward sporting event, is great. Um, the matches have been good. It's sort of interesting that you can kind of tell in the matches who's going to win just because they'll often put like a really accomplished guy like Tozawa with a guy you've never heard of, and you think like, well, all right, this guy I've never heard of is probably not going to beat Akira Tozawa, and sure enough, did not happen. Um, and so some of the matches have been pretty uneven. Although I expect that once we're down to the round of 16, it's all going to be like blue chippers, and then the matches are just going to be berserk.
Yeah, that's how I imagined it was. I mean, when I saw the list of people who were going to be in it, that's how I imagined it would be. Like the first round, like all those people we had never heard of before are gone.
Yeah, and some of them actually, were impressive. Daivari was really good, and the guy who wrestled, and his name escapes me, which is terrible. But the guy who wrestled Ibushi was also very good. But I mean, he wasn't as good as Ibushi, but he held his own. Where some of these guys have been passable, but they're obviously not stars yet. And they're all like the guys we've never heard of are like starting their careers, so like there's plenty of time for them to become big stars. But yeah, right now it's mostly been the guys we've heard of, like Tajiri won. Tajiri had a fun match. It's so great seeing him again.
I'm
Uh,
glad he's back.
he
I
yeah,
always
it's
liked him. He was like
he's always
he
been one
was
of
one
my
of my favorite
favorites.
guys from from ECW. I always liked watching Tajiri. Him and like Little Guido and Super Crazy. Those
Like every one of those matches those guys had was a classic. They all worked so well together.
Yeah, like
And
remember how just like a little while ago I was saying like you can't have like five guys and they had just had the same matches over and over again. Well, if it's If those guys, then maybe it's okay.
Yeah, if it's those guys, yes, I would watch those matches over and over again. I would watch Masato Tanaka and Mike Awesome every week, but
You,
that's
but you
rare.
can't now because one of those guys is dead.
It's true. It's true. But yeah, it's very rare. That's a rare combination of guys. Um, but yeah, I'm very happy with the way the Cruiserweight Classic is going. Have you been watching the G1, by the way?
I've been watching it, but I've been looking at like recaps.
Yeah, me too. It doesn't seem like so far this one has gotten as much. People aren't as excited about this one as they were for last year's. I don't know. Maybe that'll change because it goes on. But right now, it just seems a little. People are like, yeah, it's good, but it's nothing special.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is. I mean, it's
Um,
not bad though.
no, no, no. Uh, but it's funny. It's like this year, so much crazy stuff has happened in wrestling that like you just have to raise your game. Like you have to you have to deliver the unpredictable. Um, the last thing I plan to talk about was I'm a big fan of Beyond Wrestling, the East Coast PWG, as people say, and their big show, their equivalent of Bola, I guess, is coming up this weekend. American Rana is the name of their big annual show, and I'm going. Mark and I are going, and I just want to. This is the card. They haven't determined an order yet, but so there's a 10-man tag team match. It's Crusade for Change, where these they're like local villains, and their gimmick is basically that they're anonymous. Like they all come out with Guy Fawkes masks and stuff, and people hate them. People hate that, as you would hate like a 4chaner, I guess. I don't know. People hate them so much, and they're going to be wrestling an assemblage of dudes from New York, the Hit Squad, Homicide, Eddie Kingston, and B-Boy. This is going to be such a fun match. Um, Matt Riddle versus John Silver. AR Fox, the high flying Daredevil, versus Matt Tremont, the CZW. I believe he's still CZW World Champion. Um, Brian Cage, fresh from Lucha Underground, versus Keith Lee, who is my prediction for like breakout indie star of 2017. He's phenomenal. Johnny Gargano versus David Starr. This will be Johnny Gargano's last Beyond Wrestling match
Before he's sequestered in NXT forever.
before he goes to NXT. Tommaso Ciampa versus Brian Fury. This will be Ciampa's last Beyond Wrestling match. So it'll be a very emotional event. This is the last time I get to sing Psycho Killer in Providence, Rhode Island when Tommaso Ciampa comes out. 6-man tag team match. I am really looking forward to this because it pits the nerds of Catchpoint, TJ Perkins, Drew Gulak, and Hot Sauce Tracy Williams against Team Pazuzu, the degenerate hooligans of Team Pazuzu, Jaka, Angel Ortiz, and Mike Drastic. Chris Hero versus Kimberly. First time the two of them have ever wrestled. That's going to be interesting. The rubber match between Zack Sabre Jr. and Jonathan Gresham. This is a best 2 out of 3 falls match. Two of today's best mat technicians. And Chris Dickinson versus Donovan Dijak versus JT Dunn, which is probably the main event. So that's amazing. I'm super psyched for this. The same day in the same venue, Women's Wrestling Revolution, an all-women's show, is going to be happening. And currently booked, Mia Yim is one of my favorite wrestlers. I've never seen her in person, so I'll get a chance to do that. Candice LeRae, also booked. Lot of exciting stuff coming up this weekend. And I just found out last night that Blitzkrieg Pro, which is the company based in Enfield, just 25 minutes north of where I live, for their August 27th show, they've booked Tommy End, like Mr. Indie hotshot guy from Europe. Tommy End is going to be wrestling Brian Fury. And then I also found out that September 10th at Bethany Town Hall in Bethany, Connecticut, none other than Ricochet will be wrestling for Northeast Wrestling.
You'll be able to get all of this indie goodness right in your own backyard, Tom. You don't even have to buy poorly taped VHS tapes anymore. It's great.
When this was a real throwback when Mark and I went to see Wrestle Jam 2 weeks ago, I guess. There was a guy who was selling like DVDs. It was a shady bootlegger DVD table, and it was just like they didn't have covers or anything. It was just DVDs in like the white sleeves with like marker written on them. It was like a total throwback to when you and I would go to indie shows 15 years ago, and there would just be like a VHS tape in a white cardboard sleeve with like a label on it that would say like Best of Ultimo Dragon, and you would buy it and just like hope against hope that the quality was okay.
The quality was never okay, but it was.
Quality was rarely was the quality. Sometimes you got lucky, but yeah, a lot of times it would be like you couldn't hear the audio, or like the picture would just be like wavy. Or I remember getting a lot of Lucha Libre tapes, and it would be the actual like the visual quality was fine, but like they were just in Spanish. Somebody just taped them off TV in Mexico, and my Spanish is es muy mal, and so like I had no clue what was going on. I would just have to watch and just sort of in my mind do the commentary. Oh, that guy with a mask just kicked that other guy with a mask, that kind of thing. But yeah, it was a real throwback to that. But you're right. All this indie goodness, and it's all within like less than 2 hours drive. The longest drive is to Providence, which is like an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's a I have to get on a train and go places to see wrestling,
Yeah, I mean,
but I also have to pay
and I
like
realized
like 5 times what you have to pay.
I know it's crazy. And then I know there are people in the U.S. who like that they're as you and I know from watching those like beneath the underdog indies on Roku. Like there's some people who the idea of like Ricochet coming to their town is just forget it. Like they can't even get, you know, Axe from Demolition. Like they can't, like they just don't get these crazy high quality indie shows that are nearby. There's a guy who comes to Beyond Wrestling shows who takes the bus from Indiana. Like that is I forget what Mark and I were talking to him at the last Beyond show, and I forget how long he said it took, but it's like all day. It's like 19 hours or something. And he comes every month to see Beyond shows.
That's kind of crazy, but they sound like good shows. So I guess like if you're a crazy wrestling fan, you'd definitely be doing that.
Yes, I mean, I do want to say that AAW in Chicago also has great shows, and he could just take the bus from Indiana to Chicago. It's much closer, but he likes what he likes, and who am I to say he's not right? So I'm spoiled rotten for indie shows for the summer and into September. Very excited. And what about you? Do you have anything coming up you're going to?
No, but I haven't really been checking it out recently. So probably from next month, I'll probably start looking for some interesting stuff to go see. I've got like there was some stuff going on recently, but I didn't know until it was too late, so I didn't end up going. But I'm I'm looking to go to some stuff pretty soon. So hopefully next month we'll get something exciting going on.
You and I watched Shine on iPay-per-view on Friday.
Yes, we did, as we
That,
tend to do. We watched.
as we do, we watch Shine when it's on. It was pretty good this month. Had some good matches. Um, I like that Ivelisse is the champion. She's a very credible champion. Uh, she had a match with Sue Young. Sue's first title match was pretty good. It ended with like kind of a Sue face turn, as she did the mandible claw on SoCal Val.
Yeah,
They hated SoCal Val.
yeah. Neither of us were excited about the Sue Young face turn.
No, because I like Sue Young's character a lot, and I think she just works better as like this deranged, like creature of malignant evil. I'm not really sure how it's going to work as a good guy, unless they try to like basically make her chaotic neutral, which is possible.
I demand chaotic neutral.
Yeah, there needs to be. I mean, like not everyone can be chaotic neutral, but like some people can pull it off, and I think her gimmick as like this unpredictable, crazy person who's basically a reincarnated ghost, I think she could pull it off. Gabe Sapolsky was praising her on Twitter today, saying she has one of the best characters in the Indies, and I totally agree. It's so distinctive. So many of the there's in the U.S. for the first time, really since Mildred Burke. Uh, there's good women's wrestling in the U.S. and there are women who really are good wrestlers in the U.S. It's not every woman, and there's still, it's kind of like college basketball. There are just more good men's college basketball programs than there are women's college basketball programs. But the women's college basketball programs that are good are very good. Um, but one thing is they're not a lot of like characters, like real memorable characters. They're kind of all just like wrestlers, on the indies at least. Um, and so it's nice to see someone who just like really creates a distinctive character. It's also nice that we have an era where you can watch it on iPay-per-view or get it on DVD, or like there are a lot of ways to see like obscure weird wrestling happening all around the world. If this was the 70s, I was one of like, I think of all these like gimmicks I probably would have loved, um, that they just left almost no trace. Like Izzy Slapowitz and the Devil's Duo, way before Kevin Sullivan in ICW in the 70s, they were doing a devil worshiper gimmick, and they would like come out to the ring and they would like worship Satan before the match and stuff. And like this was the Bible Belt. People were going nuts. People would like hated them, and like they had to get police escorts to their cars and stuff. And then of course they kicked it up a notch during the Iranian Revolution, and they became devil worshippers who are also Shiite Muslim, which is horrible. But I mean, like, there's almost nothing left. There's like a few grainy clips of ICW that you can see on YouTube and some pictures that look awesome, but it was just like this weird outlaw territory, doing like local syndicated TV late at night, and there's nothing left. Like and you can find all kinds of gimmicks from the territory days that are like that. You'll just see like a picture of these guys who look amazing, and you think, God, I wish. Like, I have no idea what they were like. Were they fun in the ring? Were they like scary? Did people hate them? I don't know. There's just this awesome picture of them. It's really nice to live in an era when that doesn't have to happen, and you can be in Tokyo watching wrestling happening in a bar in Ybor City, Florida.
Yeah, and speaking of the bar, Su Young always goes to the bar.
Yeah, it's true. Every Su Young match, they go from the ring to the bar. There's always like a bar, like a bar countertop spot.
There's always someone standing on the bar. It's always Su Young.
And it's funny, when we were watching, I was looking on Twitter, and everyone was like, "Yep, it's a Su Young match. They're going to the bar."
And they did. They definitely did.
And they did. It was an enjoyable match. And we'll probably watch the next Shine.
Yeah, we tend to do that. We apparently support women's wrestling here on Halfway Through the Heat.
We do, and lest you think we're doing it for any like prurient reasons or anything, I promise you that for the entire 3 hours that we're watching, Joe and I just chant women's wrestling the whole time.
Oh yeah, if not out loud, in our hearts.
Because we want people to acknowledge how noble we are. That's the whole point of watching women's wrestling. We don't enjoy it. We just want to be seen as noble. For anyone who has a deficiency with sarcasm, I'm being sarcastic.
I'm not being sarcastic. We love women's wrestling for noble reasons.
I hate. We've talked about this before, but I hate the NXT crowd when they start doing that.
Yes, we always talk about that, but there's some craziness going on in SmackDown right now. It's one of those matches where there's like 80 people in the room. I think it's like six men to determine who is like number one contender, but like 4 of them are just like hanging out outside the ring pretending to be injured, while the ref there has had a bump, and there's like there's all these pins, but no, the ref is never in the ring. So like basically everybody in the match has been pinned for the 3 count already, but there's no ref.
That's another Shine trademark we enjoyed on Friday, the ref bump. It's like it's not a Shine event without a ref bump. Here's the thing I want to know, watching the SmackDown thing, like Dolph Ziggler just did the zigzag, and so there's no ref in the ring. You can clearly see there's no ref in the ring. Why do you go for the pin?
In the hopes that some ref will wake up. I don't know.
Like, why do you, and then like he's just like thrashing around angrily. Buddy, just pull the ref into the ring. Poor Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah. We've only can only imagine that the winner of this will be either AJ Styles or John Cena,
I hope it's Apollo Crews.
Well, being from the future, I just saw Apollo Crews get an AA and Bray Wyatt get an AA and Baron Corbin almost get an AA. Oh, it's going up. He's going up. No. Baron Corbin was the one who broke out of the AA. Oh, never mind. Never mind.
AA is for everybody.
AA is for everybody.
They used to be called
The
FUs.
FU, AA.
Can't call it the FU
Five
anymore.
Knuckle Shuffle is still called the Five Knuckle Shuffle, though.
It is. It's true. Because well, I mean, it's not as obviously not PG.
You're never gonna guess who won.
Apollo Crews.
No.
John
No.
Cena. What? Baron Corbin? Dolph
Dolph
Ziggler?
Ziggler.
Really?
Dolph Ziggler pinned AJ Styles to win.
Oh man. Well, hey, you know what? Full surprises.
Full of surprises here.
Full of surprises. Yeah, now I'm just watching the AA fest.
Yeah, it's like AA's all over the place, and then eventually Dolph comes in to steal the win.
Nothing makes sense.
Nothing makes sense in the world anymore. Dolph Ziggler. Maybe they're actually going to do something with Dolph Ziggler again.
That would be that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like, remember like when people actually wanted him to win, and then like they just dumped that whole thing.
He's had more stop-start pushes than anyone else, just about.
Yeah, that actually wasn't a bad ending because like
no, that's not bad.
It it was a bit surprising. I wouldn't have expected Dolph Ziggler to win out of any of those guys, but also like AJ Styles comes in and knocks John Cena out of the ring, and then like he's turns around and walks into a super kick and loses. It's all right.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been happy with any of those guys winning, to be honest with you. Cena would have been the most obvious, but
You would have been happy with the Baron Corbin.
Oh yeah, maybe not Baron Corbin, but good for Ziggler. This may be a chance for him to finally get some kind of push going.
That would be nice.
Uh,
I mean, this is like another thing I like about the draft is that it gives like opportunities to guys who were just definitely not going to have an opportunity before, because like
it's true.
Now that there's like 2 live shows and there's 2 like separate titles for people to go for, like you've got a whole nother show where you can get people going to be your top guy on the show, and it's totally different from the other show. Like you don't have to share the spotlight with the people on the other show. Like because previously, I mean, SmackDown was just like a throwaway show. There's no reason to watch it because it doesn't usually significantly progress any type of story. Nothing really big happens. And like if something big did happen, you'd just get a recap on Raw anyway. So like, no need to watch that. But now
I mean,
it's totally different. So like you have no excuse to not watch it.
Yeah, I agree. It's I couldn't be happier with the idea that there's going to be surprises and a reason to watch SmackDown. And Dolph winning over all those guys is definitely a surprise.
They've just set up the Dean Ambrose Dolph Ziggler feud that almost nobody has ever asked for. I say almost nobody because I'm sure there's some fan fiction there.
Oh my God! There's the slash fiction that exists. There's got to be at least one person who shipped Dean Ambrose and Dolph Ziggler before tonight,
because they were uncomfortably close to kissing in that part, and I think like someone just had like a total orgasm right there.
Dean Ambrose is a wild man. You can tell because he wears jeans in the ring. He doesn't care.
Daniel Bryan's in the ring wearing jeans and a button-up shirt though, so maybe he's
see. Dean wears a tank top
and a leather jacket.
He doesn't care. He just doesn't care.
Oh, here comes Shane McMahon also in jeans and a button-up shirt. Oh no, wait, he's not wearing a button-up shirt. It's just a t-shirt. One of those weird muscle-looking t-shirts though. There's three men in the ring and with jeans, Tom, and one guy in actual wrestling tights. What's the world coming to?
It's madness. Well, that's all the madness we have this week. If you like this madness, though, you can find plenty more of it on the old Tumblr, where I recently posted a series of photos from ICW in 1978 featuring Izzy Slapowitz in a bull rope match against Percy Pringle, aka Paul Bearer, and it's absolute carnage, it's bloody mayhem. It's exactly the kind of thing I love about the old days of wrestling. So that's the kind of content you like. That's the kind of content that's there. Closetofanxiety.tumblr.com, or Joe's is hockagenjoe.tumblr.com. You can also find us in the old Twitter machine. I am at TJ Breen. Joe is at XCornMuffinX, which you are able to find since you found this YouTube channel. Is there anything else?
That's it.
All right.
That's all we got.
Well, thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week. Lots more excitement. I'll have a rundown of how American Rana was, in case you're curious about that kind of thing. And we'll have more to talk about with the new era of Raw and SmackDown.
All right, so we'll see you guys next time.